Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stadiacast episode 24. I'm Bill, that's Lloyd. How's it going, Lloyd? What's up?
It is going fantastic, Bill. It is a fantastic morning. We have so many new people following us here on YouTube because of your amazing interview with superhero John Justice. It kind of was picked up everywhere, and it's so amazing to see so many wonderful new faces in our YouTube chat as we record live.
Speaking of recording live, we do record the show live over on youtube.com/Stadiacast. You can find us over there at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, U.S. Eastern Time. Lloyd and I are going to be here every week. It feels weird because we haven't recorded live in a couple of weeks because of all of the stuff that's been going on. But the growth has been really, really crazy. Before we get started on everything, if you want to directly support Stadiacast, you can easily do so by heading on over to anchor.fm/Stadiacast and click the support this podcast link. And that helps Lloyd and I make more shows just like this. All right. So real quick, I want to welcome all of the new people who are coming here from PC Magazine, IGN, CNET, or any of the other places that featured our podcast last week, because we had superhero John Justice on, and he told us all about that stuff. And if you are here and you didn't know that we recently had an interview with the vice president and head of product for Google Stadia, go back and listen to episode 23 or watch episode 23 on our YouTube channel, and then you can come back and check this out. I want to let since we have so many new people, Lloyd, I think a lot of people think that this is only a YouTube show, and I want to let everybody know that there's also an audio show, which you can find by heading on over to anchor.fm/Stadiacast, and that's anchor like, you throw the anchor in the water, anchor.fm/Stadiacast. So today, Lloyd and I are going to talk about our thoughts on what John said. We're also going to give you guys a couple of news stories, and then we're going to talk about your thoughts about what John said. So we've got a pretty packed episode. Are you ready to start, Lloyd?
Yeah, let's do this, man.
All right. So first off, the Buddy Pass. That's the first thing this is not in order, but this is a thing that I know that he talked about, the Buddy Pass. There was a lot of confusion because they said that the Buddy Pass was, they had in the fine print that the Buddy Pass was not going to be coming for, how long was it?
I think it was 90 days.
90 days,
like that.
So 3 months, which is a really long time. And then so when I asked him about it, he's like, well, it's probably going to be more like 2 weeks. And I guess my question, and I want to know what you think, Lloyd, and I when I interviewed John, I only had 30 minutes, so I couldn't ask him everything, everybody. So hopefully we get a chance to talk to him again, and we'll be able to ask more of those questions, so you guys can keep those coming. But I couldn't follow up with how come you're delaying it. But what do you think, Lloyd? What do you think is the reason that they are delaying the Buddy Pass by 2 weeks, maybe more?
I think it's I think that 90-day thing is legalese. As we said early on when that was announced, it's like they're putting it there just in case, and it turns out that's really what is happening. But I think the delay is just because they're going to have the number of people that are going to be in there as founders at launch, so they can make sure that that everything's working okay before every single person that gets controller has exactly 2 people instead of 1 show up and play games at the same time. So they're just using it as just another way to control the propagation of all of the possible people that are going to be playing Stadia on day one.
Speaking of day one things, I was recently, not too recently, but kind of recently, playing World of Warcraft Classic, and on day one, there were huge lines to get in. So like I would log into the game, and then I would have to sit there at my computer and wait like over an hour sometimes in order to get in, and there were other people who waited even longer than I did. And it was really, really frustrating. And I think that is exactly what they're trying to avoid here. by keeping the number of people who can connect to the surface service at any one time
Yep.
low, they can slowly ramp up, because they know that what's going to happen is if they have it come out on launch day, everybody, and we've talked about this on the show before, but everybody's going to hit it at the same time. And that's going to be a way higher peak concurrent users than it will ever have again,
Mhm.
because people don't all play at the same time except for on launch day. So keeping the number of people who can connect on launch makes a lot of sense to me. Uh,
Yeah.
Lloyd, what were your thoughts on the gamepad?
Like on the actual controller itself.
On his answer to the fact that there's no gyro, and of course
Right.
we knew that it didn't have the what do they call the buttons that you would have like on the back of a controller?
The
Paddles,
paddles,
yeah. It
paddles. Yeah.
doesn't have the paddles.
I mean, it makes sense. They're making a general purpose controller for everybody. The really big benefit with Stadia, which is the same benefit with PC gaming, is you can kind of bring your own hardware. So if you're playing on a computer like we're on, or a laptop or whatever, you can bring whatever controller you want, and as long as it's HID compatible and it has all the buttons that the game expects you to have, you can use it. But the Stadia controller itself is going to be kind of like the base model that all games will be designed around. So everything on that controller is what games will want to design for. I'm not too shocked that there's no gyro. I mean, it's kind of a, I don't know. I personally, I don't like gyro. I know you prefer gyro for aiming for some games. I hate it. It gets in the way. Like I have one of these guys, the 8-bit Doe SN30 Plus for my Switch, which I play with all the time. I just found out it has gyro. I was playing Astral Chain, and I was like leaning back in my chair, and I'm missing shots, and I'm like, what the hell's happening? And I'm like, oh yeah, it has gyro. It has really bad gyro, and to me, that's what all gyro is to me. It's bad. It makes what I want to do less precise. But I know there's a lot of newer players and even some older players that do enjoy it. But
He
it
just called me
it
old.
doesn't.
I'm just going to point out that he just called me old.
I
I'm
said
just saying.
some older players. I didn't
Uh-huh.
necessarily point. I didn't say some older players over here.
For those of you
No.
who were listening to the show, he did kind of make a motion towards his camera when he said older. I'm just going to point that out. Although, in
Yeah,
fact, Lloyd, aren't you
I
older
am
than
older.
me? Yeah, he's
Yeah,
older than
by a
me.
few days. By a few days.
I just look older. I just look older. That's not fair. Yeah, I'm really disappointed that we're not getting gyro in this controller. And here's the reason. I know that he said, and you just said the same thing, that bring your own controller. But if
Right.
it does, but if the default controller does not support gyro, then most developers will not implement gyro controller support, and that's a bad thing for me. You can always. I really don't think that the cost of adding gyro to a controller is that expensive. Mostly because let's look at the Nintendo Switch. The Switch has 3 gyros in the damn thing. It's got one in
Hmm.
each Joy-Con, and it has one in the device itself. And I didn't know that was there until the Switch VR Labo thing came out, and I
Right.
didn't have the controllers attached. And I was looking around, and I was like, oh, it knows where I'm looking. So
Hmm.
it has 3 in there. I think that they could have put a gyro in this controller and not had the expense be too high, and then just leave it up to the developers, either support it or don't support it. If you put it in, make sure that you give an option for people like Lloyd who don't like it to be able to turn it off.
Yeah.
But it just enables so much more precision for me and for a lot of people out there
Yeah.
for aiming like in a first person shooter. So for instance, I played Doom 2016 on my Steam controller, which has gyro, back when it came out on PC, and it is a fantastic experience playing it that way. So I had an absolute blast playing it that way, and that's how I prefer to play first person shooters. So now I'm not going to be able to use gyro which the reason was to keep costs down. I really don't think it would have cost that much more. But hey, you know
Yeah.
what? What are you going to do? You can't have it all. If this means that there won't be gyro in the future, even if Google decides, hey, let's do a pro controller that has gyro and the back paddles and all that stuff, it doesn't matter because developers will say, well, not everybody has that, so now we don't
Yeah.
have to support that.
And John didn't say this, but I'm thinking it could be a kind of an engineering thing as well, because as soon as you put multiple gyro sensors in a controller, those are always reporting back data. So there's going to be a lot more data packets that are going back towards the game system, and maybe they're trying to reduce the amount of upload that is happening so that they can prioritize the download. Like it could be a technical issue, not just a we didn't think that a lot of people wanted it. But I mean, data packets for a controller are so small, I can't see that
Yeah.
being an issue. But maybe there was something else to it that no one asked for it, and this, so they said, well, yeah, let's not even do it. Like there could have been a lot of discussions behind the scene.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a controller right now, and if I hold the joystick just off to the
Mhm.
side just a little bit, it's not like I hold it in this exactly the same spot the whole time. There's a little bit of wiggle room, and
Exactly.
the controller knows that. So
But now
I'm
you're
gonna have,
adding
yeah,
now
well,
you're adding multiple XYZ that is always doing it, whether you're holding anything or not. It's always reporting updates to the XYZ in two different chips. So it's a steady data stream where like a button is on or off, and analog sticks, if you're holding them, then yeah, they're updating their position constantly.
I'll give you that, but I don't think it's enough data to really warrant worrying about. But that being said, let's talk about demos. He said that demos were coming, and that not only demos for Stadia itself, the service, so you don't even have to. Well, I guess he said demos for Stadia itself, but next year Stadia is going to be free anyway, so that's really not
Right.
saying anything. But he did say demos were coming, or at least they want it to, for games, so you can see, oh look, Borderlands 3 is out, I want to see if I like it or not, we're going to do some kind of demo. He didn't specifically say that one. How do you feel about this, Lloyd?
I think it's great. I think there was a little bit of confusion from the answer, which could mean multiple things. So you had some stories were talking about every game will be available to try for free, and then other people were talking about it's just going to be a demo of the service. I hope it lands somewhere in the middle. Like nothing could be a better commercial for a game coming out. Like Borderlands 3, you get the YouTube video before whatever video you want to watch. It's Borderlands 3, it looks really fun, and then it's like play now. You hit play now and you get like a 15-minute trial or just this little sample of the game. Like there's no better sales pitch than, hey, play our game for 15 minutes, here you go.
Right, and not
So
only that, you see the video, you hit the
mhm.
play now for an hour, you get to that at the end of that hour, and a little screen comes up and says, "Would you like to buy this right now?"
Yeah, yeah,
And then I know that there's going to be people who like that becomes an impulse buy, right then, because they're like, I was having a lot of fun with this, and a lot of times with a demo, like let's talk about Nintendo Switch recently, because I was just playing this morning the demo for Daemon X Machina, and I'm sure that what would have happened had I gotten to the end of that demo, it would have said, "Would you like to buy it now?" And if I said yes, then I would have to go to the eShop and download a different thing, because it's not like I downloaded the whole game and it's just letting me play a little piece of it. I downloaded a small piece of it. So if I hit yes, now I have to wait and download that whole thing. But on Stadia, at the end of the demo, when it says, "Do you want to play? You want to keep playing?" You say yes. Do you pay your $60? And bam, you just keep playing right then.
yeah,
That turns that impulse buy into instant gratification, which
yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to really like. I can see developers, or not developers, publishers seeing that and being like, just seeing dollar signs flashing before their eyes. And I think that we did an entire episode on, can Stadia bring back the age of demos, where we used to have demos all the time, and these days they tend to be few and far between. Although
Yep.
recently I think they've been kind of picking up steam, but I think that Stadia can bring those back into the forefront. And I think that games that good games that make a demo are going to sell a whole lot more.
Definitely.
Anything else to add before we move on?
No, reiterating what you were saying. Like demo discs used to be a huge thing back in the day before like things being downloadable on the internet to your console. You would buy the official Xbox magazine just to get a sample of 8 games. Now, I mean, you can sample potentially all the games if developers want to do that. And I think this is going to be huge for them. It's going to be huge for Stadia, and it's going to be a really great thing for us, the consumers, because again, we're going to be able to sample these games. I know some developers hate demos because they don't want to steer someone potentially away from buying the game. But if you can click an ad and in 5 seconds you're giving, I don't know, a 15-minute sample of this game to see if you like it, I mean, that can only lead to more sales than just people that would just ignore the ad and continue on to watch whatever Minecraft video they wanted to go watch.
Absolutely. What's the next thing that he talked about that we want to hit?
I'm trying to think of the biggest things. Like he was kind of like he was very upfront about so many things, and he was a little bit dodgy about the free to play stuff. And that was the one big thing that I've seen all over the place on Reddit, on various posts on like IGN or whatever. Like, what's going to happen with free to play games? Are free to play games not going to be free to play on Stadia? And that was my one big disappointment. And I know they don't have anything to announce, so maybe that is why it wasn't talked about. But I'm going back to a question I have in my mind: is free to play going to be a thing on Stadia, or is it only going to be games that you purchase and play that way? I'm not sure, and we'll know more in a few months, I'm sure.
I think that if they don't have free to play games on Stadia, I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that they could ever make, because there are so many people out there who only play free to play games. There are a lot of people out there who only play games like Paladins, like Fortnite, like all of these other games where there's no buy-in, but you can still give the developer money if you like their game and you want to unlock the cool costumes or whatever, or the newest hero. Like, these free to play games are a big deal for the industry.
Huge.
And I cannot imagine, even for a second, that Google Stadia is not going to support free games. I'm 99% sure that they will, and I can't imagine that they would also lock it behind Pro. So you'd have to be a Pro subscriber in order to make, in order to play free to play games. I imagine that it would be a lot like, somebody might say, well, what's Google's incentive for doing it? They don't make money on these free to play games. I assume that you've never used your cell phone then, because a lot of there's many apps out there that are free apps to download, and then they have either in-app purchases or subscriptions or whatever, and when you buy that stuff through the app, either Apple or Google takes a cut of that purchase. That's why there was I can't remember what it was, but there was an app, and you had the option of either buying your subscription to that app through the app, or you could do it off site. And if you did it off site, it was 30% cheaper, because that meant Apple was not taking their 30% cut. So
it's like Netflix or something.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember what it was. And there's a lot of people who don't care or don't know, and they want the friction free of just hitting the button on their phone, because that makes things easier. But that cost was 30% higher in order to make up for the fact that Apple was taking 30%, and Google does the same thing, and Steam does the same thing. Like, they take 30% of in-app purchases and things like that. So, if Fortnite came to Stadia and you bought a bunch of V-Bucks, well, guess what? You're going to be getting, or Stadia is going to be getting some of that, at least if it's going through a traditional monetization model.
For sure. And that's like the money thing really isn't the question. The bigger question is, if you have a new game comes out for iOS, like what was the recent game that came out that was huge? It was like the Pokemon Masters or whatever that game is. They got 100,000 or 100 million downloads in like the first weekend, or some ridiculous number. Well, if the difference between Apple and Google Stadia is if Apple delivers that free download to you, they've paid for a little bit of bandwidth to get that thing to the phone, which then that's all that they have to do. So they've spent that money. And then the hope is that the person will do in-app purchases, and then Apple gets 30% of that.
Mhm.
The difference with Stadia is if 100 million people want to try a game on day one, Google has to have 100 million Stadia blades all over the US, all over Canada, all over the UK, all over the area where these people are playing. And there's a physical hardware cost for doing free to play. So I think it's going to be a balancing act. And that's why my thought that they might lock it, and maybe initially behind Stadia Pro, is because they just want to limit. They want to put the close the floodgates a little bit, because they might not have like 200 million Stadia blades in data centers that can satisfy everybody that hits play now on the latest Fortnite season 11 ad. And I think that is going to be the true cost to Google, is every time that you play a game, it costs them money. It costs them energy. It costs them CPU cycles. Excuse me, choking there. It costs them CPU cycles, and it costs them the use of one of the blades that is going to prevent someone else from paying or playing a $60 game that they paid for on it. So I want to see how that all plays out. Who knows? Maybe Google has 500 million blades out there, or maybe they have enough blades that they can satisfy all these free to play things. But when you look at the huge downloads for recent iOS games that come out, I don't know how any server company can say, yeah, we have 100 million servers just sitting here waiting, idling, doing nothing for these people to come play this new game. So I think it's going to be probably a slow rollout, if anything. But like you said, it's huge money. Free to play games with in-app purchases is huge money. So they got to find a way to get this to work on Google Stadia.
And there's people in chat right now who are saying maybe they'll do ads. I don't see Google doing ads on Stadia, and I know that's where somebody's like, hold on a second, Bill, you don't see Google doing ads on something? That's ridiculous. I don't see them doing ads on. You know what? I take that back. Maybe they'll do an ad like in the UI before you've picked a game or something like that, in order to make money from that. But really, the way for them to monetize these free people out, even outside of free to play stuff, is that all of your gameplay is recorded. And when when that kid is playing and they get this ridiculous snipe from a billion miles away in Fortnite, and they hit that capture button and they save that, and then they put it on their YouTube channel, which now there's no barrier to entry for people doing gaming YouTube stuff. When they put that on their YouTube channel, Google will monetize that, because they'll put an ad on that, and then they'll start making money on that. So there's all of these different avenues that are suddenly open for Google to make money, where a traditional console can't really do so, because they have that integration with YouTube. I also asked him about the mods, and he said the mods are coming, and this has got to be one of the things that the people really got excited about, the fact that we're going to be getting actual mods. Now, it's not going to be the mods that you're used to, where you download it from some website and then install it in your file directory in order to get it to run. It's definitely going to be something that you have to buy through their interface, or get through their interface, whether it's free or paid. Think kind of like Steam. What's the Steamworks or Steam?
Yeah, I think it's Steamworks, I believe, is what it is.
So kind of like that. And I'm excited for this, because that means that we'll have maybe Skyrim mods or something like that, and it will definitely have limitations. It won't be the kind of mods, like there'll be certain mods that you're not going to see. Like, I know that right now in Skyrim you can get mods where the characters are all nude or whatever. There's no way that I don't think that Google will allow that to happen. But mods is very, very exciting. What are some of your favorite mods that you've ever used in games, Lloyd?
Well, some of the ones I don't use a lot of mods personally. when I play, like if I play World of Warcraft, I have mods to make my life easier. But when I'm playing a Skyrim game or whatever, I might install some mods that add new quest lines or something. But I love watching videos of people playing with other mods. Like when Skyrim first came out, there was like the Thomas the Tank Engine mod where all the dragons are Thomas flying around,
I've never seen
breathing
that.
fire. It was great. And there was another one where it was Macho Man, so you have all these dragons flying around, and instead of like screaming out in dragon speak, it's like, oh yeah, as they're flying around blowing fire. And I'm like, that stuff I love just for watching stupid YouTube clips. But the ability to have mods that make your life easier is going to be great. I know my son plays a lot of Fallout, and he loves mods that allow him to put crafting benches everywhere, and the ability to make different guns and add different mods on those weapons. And all those things are downloadable on PlayStation 4, but there's some other ones which go just a few steps further, that are downloadable on, say, Xbox One and PC using the curated mod store that Bethesda has. So I hope that it's more like what Xbox does and not as limited as what PlayStation 4 does, that says everything that is on the disc is the only thing that can ever be part of a mod. The ability to add extra stuff like you can on Xbox through a curated store, not personally on your own system, is going to be great. So I'm excited for mods. I think it's going to be great for the industry.
Absolutely. It will absolutely be great for the industry. Listen, we've got two other things that I kind of wanted to talk about for what John said, but then we also have like two news stories and we've got a pile of feedback. So lightning around these two things.
Sure.
The year subscription, he said that there were no plans for a year-long subscription yet, but they're listening to what we think.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that?
I'm surprised that this wasn't thought of, because that's the way people have been buying game subscriptions forever. You get your Xbox Live account, it's $10 a month or $60 a year. Same with PlayStation, same with Nintendo. It's surprising that they hadn't thought about it, but the fact that he's like, do you want that? And everyone's like, yeah, hell yeah, we want that. So hopefully we'll get something. If it can be, it probably won't be $60 a year because that seems a little low. It might be something like $80 or $90, but anything that would save people a little bit of bucks is a win in my books. And if that comes out because it was asked on an interview, that's going to be pretty fantastic.
I think my issue with this, or I'm trying to devil's advocate this, because I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that they haven't planned that. But the only thing that says to me that maybe their reasoning is because you can play it for free otherwise. Like that's, I can understand that, but I think it's definitely the wrong move. Save file imports. I can't believe I said it thinking that they would say, well, that's really too hard to do. And he was like, well, actually we're working on that. And it's something we want to make sure that we do with as many publishers as we can.
Right.
Are you excited about that, Lloyd?
Oh, it's great. Like there's recent games that came out on, say, the Nintendo Switch that allow you to import your Steam save. I mean, that's huge. Like that is what we want. We like us as gamers forever, and you as a gamer, Bill. I'm not excluding you here. I'm not talking about age here or anything like that. We've wanted the ability to buy a game once or multiple times, but only have the progression have to happen once. And if Stadia helps that, so you have one save file that you can then import from other consoles and upload from other consoles. I mean, this is going to be absolutely huge, because you can buy your Skyrim on Stadia and import your Switch save or your PC save from Steam. It's going to be fantastic. I am super excited for this to be the future of gaming.
Okay, so we've covered all of a bunch of the stuff that he talked about. We've given our thoughts on this. We've got a couple of news stories, but we're going to take a break and hear from a sponsor first. But before we go anywhere, if you are watching this live on YouTube, and according to my little chat thing here, there's like 90 of you already watching, do us a favor, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, hit subscribe and click the bell so you get notifications when we go live. But let's take a break. We'll hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk about maybe a possible release date. Stick around.
Now you can play Donkey Kong on your ColecoVision, Atari VCS, or Intellivision video game system. Donkey Kong has multiple screens, just like the arcade game.
All right, we're back, and we got possible. This was posted on Reddit. A possible release date for Stadia. Lloyd, what's that date?
It's sometime between November 12th and 13th.
Do you think that this is the real deal?
I don't know. This is referencing people that were buying the Wasabi colored controller, and they have an estimated ship date of the 12th and 13th. I think when you buy stuff from the Google store, those estimates are very much estimates. I bought a Google Home, and my estimate was like, I bought it in, I think, March or April, and my estimate was September, and then it came the next week. So I think I think their little predictor robot is maybe malfunctioning a little bit for that. But I mean, they said it's going to be in November, and mid-November is in November. So I that's what a lot of people were thinking that it was going to be, was sometime mid-November.
And that's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. You know, I hadn't really thought about this. I think for Stadia, the best launch day would be in the middle of the week, you know, because that way the fewest number of people could log in at the very beginning, and it would give them more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more padding to protect themselves from the onslaught of people who are begging for bits to come flying out of YouTube's servers, basically. So 12th and 13th, it makes a lot of sense. It's a Tuesday and a Wednesday right in the middle of the week. There's going to be people who are stuck at work, and everybody's going to be like, I wish I was playing on Stadia right now. But, you know, only time will tell. We will see. Travel and Games in chat says November 19th is their guess, and I'm just looking to see what day November 19th is. That would be a Tuesday. Oh, that's a week afterwards. I do wonder, you know how they have like launch day for stuff, and then your game shows up on launch day, which you ordered from Amazon or whatever. Do you think that we're going to get our devices and controllers prior to when we will be able to actually turn them on?
I think what's going to happen is they said that they're going to be sending out the founders packs in order of the orders received. So I think what's going to happen is they'll turn on the service on the 9th. You'll be able to go in there and register your name and do all that stuff. And when you get your controller, if you get it before, if Bill gets his before me, which he will, because he's in the US and I'm in Canada, and shipping to Canada is the worst.
Take that,
Bill will be able to
youngin'.
play. Bill will be able to play before I will. I think that's what they're going to do. They're just going to send them out, and when you get it, have at it. You can go and run with it.
All right. Speaking of the controllers, you might have noticed our show notes, or not our show notes, our show art is very heavily featuring the Wasabi Stadia controller, which, by the way, I love that they named it the Wasabi controller, and it is Wasabi colored. Lloyd, why is that what we're looking at for our YouTube thumbnail?
Well, Google said we heard the Wasabi Stadia controller is now available in Canada, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So there you go. You can get the Wasabi controller. You can now purchase it and order it, and it will be delivered sometime between the 12th and 13th, apparently, is when these things are going to come out. And I got to say, man, what's the name of the one that comes with the Founders Edition? It's like Midnight Blue or something along those lines.
I don't know what it's called. I think it's just called the Founders one.
It could something like that. Like, I love their colors, I love their naming, but I don't need another controller. I have like 6 controllers sitting beside me to control all my consoles that are in my room that I do my recording. But I kind of want a Wasabi controller. I'll be fully one of those people that buys controllers based on the color.
And it's called the Night Blue Stadia control.
Okay,
so
I was close.
You were very close. I have to agree. The Wasabi, like, if I could say I don't want the Founders one, give me the Wasabi one instead, I probably would do, or I might do that, just because I think it looks a lot cooler. But also, this is going to be more rare. But do I really care about that? It's not like I'm going to turn around and sell it. So does that matter to me? But I do like the way that the Wasabi controller looks. I think that the color choices are fantastic, and I just also really like the name. I also like a lot that they have these with their controllers, that they have the top of the stick being a different color than the bottom of the stick. And I don't know why that appeals to me so much. But the first time I ever saw it was with my Xbox. I don't have an Xbox, but I do have an Xbox controller to play games on my PC.
Oh, there you go.
And this one has a slightly darker underneath blue than on the top. I think that looks really cool, and overall, I think it's fantastic. And I'm very excited for these controllers, especially after we've heard everybody say that the controller is really good.
Right.
All right, so listen, guys. Next episode, we'll talk about that VR nonsense that everybody heard about. Maybe we'll talk about EA's streaming rival, and possibly even the foolish, I think, comparisons of Apple Arcade and Google Stadia. But for now, it's time for crowd play. It's time for us to talk about what the community is talking about, and we're going to start with this email from Darren. Darren emails. He says, by the way, if you want to email us, it's you can email me at runjumpstomp@gmail.com, or you can email the show, stadiacast@gmail.com. And Lloyd, where did people get a hold of you?
Info@rezd.tv, rezd.tv.
All right, he didn't use Gmail because he's weird. That's okay. He says, firstly, I congratulate you both on this excellent podcast. Thank you. I listen to it every week on my commute into London. I am a lapsed casual gamer here in the UK who has been tempted, along with his now teenage daughter, back into the gaming world by the prospect of Google Stadia. I do have a question for you both. You mentioned on the latest John Justice podcast, I love how people are referring it to as that. By the way, I just have to say, did you see that on Reddit, everybody was talking about it as superhero John Justice?
Totally.
Like, that was great.
We started a thing. This is fantastic.
Stadia being able to pull in extra AI compatibility from a dedicated NPC with Google. Now, I will admit I'm not entirely sure what this means technically. So, does this mean that on a game like Cyberpunk 2077, you would get a more enhanced experience due to this AI compatibility compared to playing it on Xbox or PlayStation? Lloyd, do you want to handle this?
Yeah, the answer to that is maybe. It all depends on the game. So it depends on the developers. So if the developers want to make their game the same for everybody, no. But what it does allow for is the ability to pool multiple Stadia blades potentially, is that they could have one blade that is fully dedicated to just doing AI. And AI is pretty CPU heavy. It's pretty memory heavy. That's why a lot of games have quite simplified AI, or they have kind of simulated things. But if you could have a separate machine that is basically just thinking of ways to kill you, which is probably a bad thing. Like, we don't want a Skynet situation happening, but thinking of ways to kill the player character because they're running their own AI and simulations and whatnot. It's possible that in the future you could have way better enemy AI, or also you could simulate an entire village with everybody having their own really distinct AI instead of just running like a timed pattern. Like at 12 o'clock game time, they're going to go here. And then at 6 p.m., they're going to the bar. And then at 8 p.m., they're going home and going to sleep, and like really simplified AI patterns. They could make a game where it's thinking. So we can get the real Dreamcast would be here, since we just had the anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast. So I'm pretty excited to see what developers bring up, because having near infinite compute resources can make for some really amazing gameplay in the future.
There was a roundtable discussion that the people who are working on Stadia were having, and I think it was at GDC. Like, there was a lot of stuff that actually came out of GDC that a lot of people, ourselves included, just did not see or never got around to, because it's so niche and the tech part of it is like way up here. And Lloyd and I Lloyd's a developer. I'm a science teacher. So like, he understands a lot more of it than I do. But even this stuff, I think, was probably above his pay grade because he doesn't do that kind of development.
Correct.
But in this roundtable discussion, they were talking about how they could have a cluster of just like, they could sit there and have somebody just develop nothing but AI over and over and over that could be used by many different games. So Stadia could have like this bank of AI characters, and like they would have all of these algorithms that would teach each character how to behave and act. And is that going to be taken advantage of in a game like Cyberpunk 2077? I would say probably not, because that game is, it's been being worked on for a long time. But in 10 years, in 5 years maybe, when games come out that have been built after all of this stuff is available, those games are going to have much more realistic and separated characters, because they have a huge bank of just NPC decision trees that are on a server someplace, and they can say, go grab a random one and assign it to this character. And you know what that means? That means when Lloyd plays through a game, the character that he's talking to might be the same character that I'm talking to, but they might behave differently based on what AI comes through. So we would have a very, very different experience, and that would be amazing. And not only would that be really cool for us as players, but that would also mean that if I wanted to watch Lloyd play a game, which this has happened to me many times, where I've gone to watch a streamer play a game, and I'm like, oh, they're further than me, I gotta leave, so I can't watch because I don't want to get spoiled on stuff. Maybe that wouldn't be as big of a deal, because the experience would be different. Of course, that's probably well in advance down the road, but it's definitely something to think about. You want to read this? Go ahead.
Can I just add one
Yeah.
other thing? There was a really cool AI system that was part of the Middle Earth games, Shadow of War. You had something called Nemesis. So you'd be playing this game and you'd kill one of the Uruks, and he would remember that. So for the rest of the game, it's like, you killed my brother, or you killed my clanmate, and would remember it for the whole entire game. What if you had a account level Nemesis system? So if you're someone that plays games and you're a sneaky thief, and you always go in and you pick the locks and you stealth through all the doors and you shoot people from the distance at a bow, what if the AI could draw from that, and you could turn on this enhanced difficulty so that every game that you play knows that you're a dirty, sneaky thief, and then you have to alter your gameplay? It's like there was that game Hello Neighbor, I think that's what it was, where you had to break into this guy's house and figure out something, but he would learn from how you played the game. What if it learned from how you play every game? And you could turn on this enhanced AI that learns from all of your past gameplay experiences. So for me, I would be able to just fire in the air, and I'd do a headshot because I'm terrible at shooting people in the face. That would be the how the AI would learn from me, is this guy has terrible aim. But people that are sneaky thieves or whatever, they could learn from that, and developers could then draw from that core AI or that core Nemesis data set that they have on you from playing Google Stadia. The possibilities are endless about having everything live in the cloud. Nothing's tied to a physical piece of hardware that is disconnected from the internet. Maybe everything is up in the cloud, and any developer, potentially, if Google adds this as an API, could draw from all that experience. And that's why, to me, Google Stadia is just so exciting.
So two things that I want to say. First off, your aim would be better if you used gyro. And secondly, so we would have different, so there would be like, Be Nice, Hurt Me Plenty, Nightmare Mode, and Lloyd
Dirty Sneaky Thief
mode, where everybody knows exactly how you think. That would be awesome. You want to read this first YouTube comment from Mark?
Sure, let's go. Mark Findorf writes in, or commented in, will there be a function that a friend can help me in game by getting my stream to his display and take for a limited time control of my game with his setup, or something like that? So the friend sees my game on his display, I see it on my display, I give him control, and he helps me out or shows me something in the game, and then I have the opportunity to get the control back from him anytime I want. And that would be awesome. Keep up the great work. So thanks for that, Mark. So I don't know, have you ever done this on PlayStation or Xbox, Bill?
I haven't, but I know that it's a possibility. So you can have somebody control your PlayStation on your somebody on your friends list take over and get you past like a particularly difficult thing, or show you this cool whiz bang thing that they had found, and you were like, they're like trying to describe where to go, but they're like, here, just let me do it. I've never done it, but I know that it's an option.
Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely an option on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, and I've used it a little bit. I've also seen some really bad videos where people were offering help in like the Destiny subreddit, and they were like, yeah, no, I can get you this, I can beat this raid for you, I can get you this really amazing item. And then some poor kid gave control over to a troll, and then that troll basically deleted all his characters and all of his items. And it's just like, so that's where it can be used in a bad way. But I've done it with friends, where I was playing a game that wasn't available to my buddy yet, because I had an either it was either an early copy or wasn't available in his part of the world. However, it happened, and he basically just jumped on. I gave him control, and he played 20 minutes of the game, just over the internet. And I'm watching what he's doing, he's watching what I'm doing, and it's pretty fantastic. And if Stadia has that, I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't, because everything is streamed anyway. They might as well just stream your video to multiple people, and then have the option from whatever UI to say, hey, pass control to Bill, and then Bill will be able to use his gyro controls on his gyro controller that he's hooked up through HID, and get me that headshot that I so sorely need.
No, because I suck at video games too. I'm really good at talking about video games, but man, when I gotta play one, I gotta play on easy mode most of the time. We got a YouTube comment from Shen1. They said, my only burning question is how soon could they implement ray tracing for Stadia, since they're using AMD chips? And as far as I know, AMD doesn't support that technology yet. Stadia's main draw is not needing to always keep up with the latest hardware, but being able to play 4K 60 frames per second or so should have the advantage over next-gen consoles, and even PC at that. Cyberpunk recently showcased ray tracing on PC, and the game is coming on the platform. Would be a shame if it wasn't supported at game launch, as PCs would have the graphics advantage on this title. So I get what you're saying. Without a doubt, I do think... I don't know about AMD chips versus NVIDIA chips. All I know is that I've got an NVIDIA graphics card in my PC because it makes it easier for me to stream. That's all I cared about when I got it, was so I could stream at the highest possible quality. I don't know about ray tracing and all. I mean, I know what ray tracing is, but Lloyd, do you think that we're gonna have ray tracing soon on Stadia?
Well, he says that they're only the other chips. AMD doesn't support ray tracing, and that's not entirely true. Ray tracing is supported by any CPU. I was doing ray tracing back on my 486. It just took a really long time to render a scene. So the RTX chipset has a built-in ray tracing, I guess, coprocessor, where it has all these functions built in to help with ray tracing. And if, for people that are listening to this that don't know what ray tracing is, it actually simulates the photons of light and how they interact with surfaces. So if it simulates a photon, it hits a shiny surface, so it bounces off, but it takes a little bit of that color, and then you get really amazing scenes. Like there was a Minecraft demo where all the lights in Minecraft were ray traced. So they had different surface properties, they had different lights, and it was fantastic. And you really can't simulate that really good with software, because it's going to be a simulation. It's not going to be real time. And this is real time ray tracing. So any chip out there on the market right now can do ray tracing. It's just very GPU heavy, so they could support ray tracing in any game that they want on Stadia, but that's going to take a lot of the CPU cycles, or a lot of the GPU cycles rather. So what I think is probably going to happen, and it was said in the chat room, I'm looking to see who said it, and I can't bring it up right now because my thing is being really stupid. I hit hide chat instead of clicking on the window. But someone in the chat room said, and yeah, version 2.0 of the Stadia blades could have an RTX like support built in, and that is entirely true. And that is the beauty of Stadia. A new feature comes out, a new whiz bang feature that is on the back of every box. Well, Stadia just needs to upgrade their hardware. And not to say it's a small thing, like this is millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to replace these blades. but they can even do it slowly. So game 1 runs on Gen 1 blades, and most people, game 1 to 5 million run on Gen 1 blades, but a game 5 million and 1 that supports this new feature needs version 2 blades, and they can direct you towards that when you hit play game. That is not something that's possible right now, because you buy a PlayStation or you buy an Xbox, that hardware is already 3 years old when you buy it, and then it lasts in your house for 5 years. So at the end of the generation, you're essentially playing with 8-year-old technology. Stadia can be 6-month-old technology if they want to roll out those blades as fast as they want, and it's going to be crazy if that's what they choose to do.
You also have to remember that they have elastic computing on their side, where they can essentially figuratively duct tape 2 or 3 or 4 Stadia blades together in order to accomplish a task. So maybe they'll be able to do ray tracing in that way until they upgrade for the future, where now everything that we needed 3 blades to do before, we can do on 1. So that's something else that we have to keep in mind, and you can't do that on a console in your house. It's not like I can go out and buy Project Scarlet and then say, you know what? I bet you if I bought 2 of these, that game would run twice as fast. It just doesn't work that way. But with Stadia, it does work that way. You want to get the next YouTube comment, Lloyd?
Sure. So this one is from Power Fantastic on YouTube. I want parental controls that allow blacklisting of specific games for my children, regardless of rating. And thanks Power Fantastic for sending that in. And as John Justice said, superhero John Justice said, that is something that they're working on, and it's going to be a slow rollout. So they're going to roll out basic parental controls. Hopefully the end point is I can blacklist a game based on rating, based on whether I want it to be blacklisted or not. That's going to be huge. So getting comments out like that here on the show or on Reddit, as John said, is great, because that designs kind of what their rollout is moving forward.
I think that's a big deal, because there are games that are rated, they're rated E for everyone. And like, what's the soccer game? What's the soccer game, Lloyd? The big soccer game.
FIFA.
FIFA, thank you. So the giant soccer game FIFA is rated E for everyone. It's actually rated for ages 3, right? And it is filled to the brim with loot boxes, which in my opinion, and you may disagree with me, or Lloyd may disagree with me, but it's filled to the brim with gambling. And kids don't have the mental capacity to understand that there's a cause and effect. They always think they're going to win, and that's why kids fall into that trap very, very easily. And even though that game is rated E for everyone, I would not want my 5-year-old to be playing it, because I wouldn't want to get them exposed to that gambling stuff. So I would want to blacklist that game. At the same time, I would probably be okay with my son playing a game, my 11-year-old playing a game like Diablo. Yeah, there's a lot of blood in it, but it's from a really far away distance, and it's really not that bad. And at the end of the day, I don't think that that's objectionable, but that game is rated M, so I would want to be able to whitelist that. So I really hope that we have really granular controls on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ninfrost Plays on YouTube says, hey guys, fantastic stream. I definitely look forward to your podcast and get more information about Stadia. I was wondering if we'll see on Stadia older games from the older generations on Stadia. I was also wondering if we'll see Fortnite or any free-to-play games. Well, we kind of already talked about that, but Lloyd, do you think we're going to be seeing any older games on Stadia?
I think we will, and probably in a number of different ways. Like Ubisoft, the Uplay Plus is going to be available on Stadia at some point with an additional monthly fee. Well, not an additional monthly fee. You pay for a Uplay Plus subscription, and then down the road, you'll be able to use your Uplay Free to play that potentially. And that's how you'll get a bunch of older content on it. But I think that if Stadia is a hit, you're going to get Bethesda, you're going to get the EAs, you're going to get Capcoms, you're going to get all the big developers they're going to say, hey, you want to play Street Fighter 2 from the arcade? Here you go. Here's Street Fighter 2 arcade. There you go. It's a MAME emulator running in Stadia. There you go. You can play our games, and you're going to get all the back content from Bethesda. You're going to get all the Skyrim, all the Elder Scrolls games, all the Fallout games. I can see that happening because for a developer, the porting cost is probably pretty low if you're already using an engine that supports the Stadia APIs, and then it's just a matter of just throwing it out there. And if you make a couple hundred sales, well, that's a couple hundred sales that you didn't have before. And if Stadia is huge, I think this catalog is going to get immense in a couple of years.
Let's look. If you're listening to the show, then you don't realize that I just picked up my Nintendo Switch and I'm holding it up. This system has had many ports of older games coming to this system because this system is popular. So Lloyd is 100% correct. If Stadia is popular, and this is such a weird thing because you don't have to buy Stadia; it's just a free thing. So, like anybody. Like there is no install base. So this whole idea, like I fall into the trap myself. The Stadia doesn't need to have an install base because you could just sell your game on Stadia and people can buy it without having to buy a console. So if Capcom wants to bring Resident Evil 0 to Stadia, it's not like they have to worry about, now people have to go out and buy Stadia in order to play that. They could just say, here, go to our website, not even Stadia, just go to our website, buy it from us, and you, because they said when they first announced it that the store is a link. Like your everything is just a link, and that's why it's going to work. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Lloyd, we're almost at the hour mark, and we've got like 4 comments left. Do you want to pick one more to hit before we go, and when we could take the rest and shuffle them off to next episode?
Oh, okay, we'll do one, and it's more of a comment than a question, Bill. But I want to get your thoughts on that one. It's from Death Center 1976. And it is thanks in all caps a lot for this show/interview. Very helpful. But if Stadia is going to be delayed by 48 minutes and 23 seconds, now I'm going to get pissed. Bill, how would you like to reference that?
You know what? I'm going to be upset too, but I would gladly trade more information now for waiting an extra 40 minutes later. But thank you very much for that made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great comment. I was like, what does he mean? And I'm like, I look at the play of the last episode. I'm like, oh, right. That is what he's referencing. That's great.
So if there are any other comments, we have our show notes over at runjumpstomp.com. This is Stadiacast episode 24. There's other comments and questions that people had asked. You can go and check those out there, or you can go to our last YouTube video, and you can read all the comments there, and just keep those comments coming. We read those on the show. I really appreciate it. Again, if you didn't know, we also have an audio version of this show at anchor.fm/Stadiacast. Lloyd and I also have our own other shows that you might not know about. Lloyd, tell them about your other shows.
Yeah, I do Nintendo Pulse, twice weekly Nintendo news show we've been doing since 2005. It's ridiculous. And we also have Retro Pulse, and you can find those all, which is we cover one old retro game every episode. And you can check those out over at res.tv, rezd.tv, YouTube, podcasts. It's all there. You can check it all out.
And you can find all my stuff over at runjumpstomp.com. I host Nintendo Switchcraft, which is a four times a week we talk about Nintendo stuff. I also, host Stadiacast, and I've got a brand new show coming out, which there's very little known about it yet. It's called 143 Pixels. You can go to 143pixels.com. It's just going to take you straight to runjumpstomp.com for now. I'm currently recording all of that work, or all of that stuff now, and we'll let you guys know more when that is about to come out. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so by joining us over at Stadiacast on Twitter. You can follow me at RunJumpStomp. You can follow Lloyd at Dasme. That's DASME. Be sure to use the hashtag Stadiacast so we can find your tweets. Join our Discord over at runjumpstomp.com/Discord. And while you're already joining Discords, Lloyd has his own community Discord over at I I can't say it. Lloyd, read it.
It's res.tv/Discord, rezd.tv, or rezd.tv if you are in the US.
That's right. And before we go, I just want to let everybody know that right after the show, I'm going to be streaming Doom 2016 right here at youtube.com/Stadiacast. So trying to get more people coming over to seeing the show and everything. So right after I finish this show, I'm going to be streaming Doom, so stick around and hang out. The music you're about to hear is Subterranean Kamikaze by Zircon. Make sure you check out their stuff at zirconstudios.bandcamp.com. Lloyd, thank you for being an awesome co-host. I will see you next time, man.
Later, everybody. Thanks for coming out.